Today, we're diving into a really powerful ancient story. It's all about the high price of envy. A tale of two birds that, honestly, reveals a timeless truth about who we are and, maybe more importantly, who we try to be.
Wow. I mean, this line from Aesop's Fable just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's really the core warning of the story we're about to unpack. A super stark reminder of the dangers of wanting to be someone else. Okay, so the story itself is actually pretty simple, but it is so deep. It's about a journey away from the familiar, the woods of home, and into these cold, unwelcoming marshes of imitation. And the whole thing is driven by that destructive power of envy.
So here's our main character, the raven. And for him, his black feathers have become this source of shame. He looks over at the swan and sees more than just beauty. He sees this ideal that he foolishly thinks he can get for himself, just by changing his habits.
So what does he do? He comes up with this plan, right? But it's a plan that's based on a complete misunderstanding of how nature works. He decides he's going to abandon everything that makes him a raven in the first place, totally convinced that if he just changes his surroundings, he'll change his very essence.
So he does it. He leaves his natural habitat, the very place that gave him food and purpose. He literally trades the life-giving stuff of the woods for this foreign environment that he's not built for it.
And this part is such a powerful image. The raven gets into this daily ritual of self-erasure, trying to literally wash his identity away. But all this frantic effort, it just leads to exhaustion. Because you can't scrub away who you fundamentally are.
And here's the fatal consequence of his obsession. While he was so focused on chasing the swan's white feathers, he completely ignored his own stomach. The food that kept the swan alive was basically poison to him. In his quest for a different look, he starved himself to death.
So what is the core psychological mistake that's happening here? Well, the fable actually gives us a surprisingly modern name for this ancient trap.
We can call it biomimicry of the ego. The raven made this huge mistake of believing his color, his whole character, was just a matter of diet and hygiene, not something that was deeply baked into his nature. And this contrast is absolutely key. On one hand, you have the raven, who represents self-rejection, totally fueled by comparison. But the swan? She's not even trying. Her beauty is just effortless. It's a natural part of her being. And that's exactly what makes the raven's struggle so tragic.
Okay, so how does this ancient dynamic actually show up in our world? Because let's be honest, we all have our own marshes that we're tempted to fly off to.
I mean, just think about the whole aesthetic lifestyle trend. Someone sees an influencer living this picture-perfect minimalist life in a remote cabin, and they decide to copy it, only to find out they're completely unprepared for the isolation and the actual work involved. They're washing their image online, but they're starving their soul offline.
Or what about at work? Think about the creative artist trying to live in a marsh of spreadsheets and data analysis because they admire some big-shot executive. Their creative feathers, they never change, but their health and their productivity just get thinner and thinner until they completely burn out.
And you know what? This even happens at a massive corporate level. A company sees a competitor's success and tries to copy their entire business model, totally abandoning what made them unique in the first place. They try to eat strategies that just don't agree with their internal structure, and they end up losing their place in the market.
So let's just break down these common pitfalls, right? We mistake what someone does for who they are. We believe that pure effort can change our core design. And, maybe most critically, we leave our own home, our own strengths, to go live in someone else's marsh. All right, so if the marsh only leads to starvation, how do we find our way back to our own woods? How do we find that path to authenticity?
This piece of ancient wisdom, from the concept of dharma, really gives us the answer. It teaches that our purpose isn't in mastering someone else's life. It's in fully embracing our own, even with all its imperfections.
And this is the beautiful, kind of ecological truth of the whole fable. Our unique traits, they aren't flaws we need to wash away. They are essential parts of a larger, interconnected whole. The world actually needs your specific gifts. Okay, let's turn this wisdom into something we can actually use. Here are a few questions we can ask ourselves to make sure we're not accidentally following the raven's path. So let's take a second and really think about this. Where in your life might your attempts at self-improvement actually be a form of self-erasure? Where are you forcing a diet on yourself that doesn't actually feed your soul? This is the central challenge, isn't it? Healthy growth builds on who you are. It doesn't demand you abandon your core. You know, inspiration asks, how can I build my own wings? Envy asks, how can I get their wings? It's the difference between strengthening what you have and trying to trade your wings for fins.
So let's end with some really powerful affirmations to help guide us back to the woods and fields of our own strengths. Think of these not just as words, but as a whole mindset for finding contentment and real power in our own design.
Let's end on this one provocative thought. What if the source of the raven's suffering wasn't his blackness, but just his own perception of it? What if you're starving simply because you're trying to eat what you were never meant to digest?
The crucial takeaway here is this: let the raven's fate be our warning. Our unique traits, our black feathers, whatever they may be, they're not a stain that needs to be washed away. They're our identity. So return to your own woods, embrace your own nature, and let your true self shine.